Okay, so we're joined in this conversation by Rebecca Applewhite, Director of Solutions Consulting at Remote. Rebecca to me embodies the best traits of pre-sales. She's super thoughtful, down to earth, practical, really positive, and a joy to speak with. So thanks for taking the time.
Oh, wow. What a great introduction. Thank you. I'm really pleased to be part of this project and looking forward to the conversation.
So they say that, pre-sales is the best career that nobody's ever heard of. What do you personally love about pre-sales?
Oh, that's really interesting. Yes, I couldn't agree more. I had no idea what pre-sales or solutions consulting was 5.5 years ago before I made a career switch. What I love about it is the variety of the challenges that we're presented with every day. I love the fact that we are customer facing, so we get to talk to many different types of people, roles, companies, industries with differing challenges and objectives, and we get to sort of listen and turn that very kind of tailored understanding into a storytelling value proposition on behalf of what we're trying to pitch and position. So it's really interesting, it's really varied, it changes every day, and I think the role has a large amount of autonomy and independence because we are seen as trusted advisors and experts, and we can have a lot of impact and influence on the progression of the organization and the sales cycle and so on. So I think that's what I like most about it, the variety, the exposure to a breadth of different circumstances, and the autonomy over making a difference about how you go about achieving whatever you want to achieve. And then one final thought is that it really, not only does it expose you to a wide amount of external customers, the role is so critical in bringing together internal stakeholders as well. We're really like a pivot between so many facets of the organization. Yes, we typically work in the sales org, but we have to create and maintain relationships across product, across customer success, across operations, across compliance and legal. So it's really great. We've got such a great opportunity and position to work with so many different types of people and have a real impact. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and I'm really glad that you're so passionate about your job. I believe it reflects in every single day of your work. So congratulations on that. And if we are thinking about your entire experience as a leader in pre-sales, could you think about the hiring process? How important is that for you? How much hiring have you done, and how important is this little piece?
Gosh, it's it's absolutely critical, and I think as a leader it's something that you have to be focused on at all times, even if you don't have any open positions. First of all, I think, as you referred to before, solutions consulting is a career that not many people have heard of, and therefore finding and attracting talent to the solution consultant role can be sometimes a bit of a challenge because it's not really well known. Secondly, I think it's the sort of onboarding and enablement time for a solutions consultant to be up and running and successful is long, because we have to be across both product technical mastery as well as sort of the industry that we work in, which we work, and be consultative sellers and be across the sales process and requirements of the organization as well. So there's so much that we have to understand and become enabled on before we are successful in the role. So you need to really, as a leader, I think, have a lot of awareness of your future headcount needs, the sort of position of your current team and what that looks like in terms of their retention possibility, and sort of always be on the scout, like have a kind of backup list of people that you've worked with that you think would be on your radar, and just always sort of be working on it. In terms of my own experience of hiring, funnily enough, I've just started at my new company, so I'm 3 months in, and before I joined, we had hired quite dramatically. So the team had doubled in size in the 6 months prior to me joining. In my previous roles, though, I did go through hiring both as a sort of influencer, as a senior SC who was involved in the interview process and gave my opinion, and as a leader of the team who recruited and hired a couple of positions. And yes, it was challenging. It was challenging to find candidates, and it was also challenging to have a good framework to evaluate the candidates. I sort of felt like I was making it up as I went along. There wasn't anything existing out there, so I had to sort of think about what I thought made a successful SC, and think about how I could interview and assess whether a potential candidate would fit into my definition of what would be successful. So it was challenging and it was difficult. And I think I ended up with some fantastic hires. I know I did. And the retention was good, and their enablement was good, and their impact was really good as well. But yes, it was difficult, very difficult.
Thank you so much for the detail there. There's so many points that I've just and just as a recruiter, I can't agree more just on one point, which is the importance of kind of like proactivity and building the pipeline. And it's so easy to say, and it's so hard to do in reality. Because one of those kind of important, urgent things, and the urgent things take over. But the net effect of actually, if you can have the discipline to do that, is huge in terms of quality of hire at the end.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So, and we're going to unpack a lot of the things you just said a little bit later on. But to start things off, could you walk us through what your current hiring process is, and what are the kind of the main things that you're looking to assess?
Okay.
that can either be now or it can be in the past. It's not,
yes.
It's not the company. It's more in general what your experience has been.
Yeah. Okay. So probably I don't yet have a defined one here at Remote, although there is a defined sort of hiring practice organizationally, but there's not one yet for the SC. I've just built the SC competency model actually, and then I think I'll build sort of what I'm looking to hire from there. But yeah, previously what the hiring process has involved is first of all, in finding candidates, we've used 3 approaches. One is internal networks, my own networks, and the networks of my team and the wider sales team, and other sort of specialist area teams, because I have found that some very successful solutions consultants have come from the industry rather than an SC background. So it was relying on networks to find candidates. So that was the first step, to get a list of potential candidates. Then we would put them through an interview process, and I started with a framework of questions, some of which were organizational and culturally related. So we had some questions that we had to ask to ensure good cultural fit, some of which were sort of broader competency related, sort of personality traits that I was trying to unpick, sense of curiosity, resilience, those kind of core characteristics. And then some of which were designed to try to see if there was technical competence as well. So, asking about how they might, if they had experience in technology demonstrations, how they would go about doing it. And as I sort of made that process more mature, some of the last hires I made at my earlier organization, I actually asked them to give me a demonstration, and they could pick anything they wanted, but I had to see a 10-minute pitch demonstration of a aspect of technology. Like they could have picked, I don't know, Google emails or anything, didn't have to be their current firm, but to sort of see them in practice. And the interviews were, we tried to keep it down to 3. Sometimes we went to 4, and they typically involved me as the leader of the SE team. I would also ask, it would involve the head of sales, who I reported to. And I would also have usually a third, prior to getting to me, they would have an initial general people or HR interview, then me, then head of sales. And sometimes I would have a second interview, or I would actually ask someone from the product team who I had a really great relationship with, who had been a PM who'd been a former SC, and was really well versed in both industry and solutions consulting for a second opinion sometimes.
And if you are thinking, I believe you have some favorites in your team, either now or in the past. So could you think about the qualities that those people possess? Like, what are the differences between a top performer and an average SC?
I think I come back to this again and again, and it's a little bit intangible, but it's like this sense of curiosity. So that they don't take the first answer at face value. They're always digging to understand what lies beneath. And I think that sense of curiosity applies to both how their understanding and their conversations, but also how they apply to their own development and learning. So that, healthy curiosity expressed positively is like something I keep coming back to as a real distinguishing characteristic of top performers. What else? It's really silly, but I find a kind of, from a personality point of view, there has to be a sort of level of professional camaraderie, which is absolutely rubbish to explain. But this, and a successful SC has to create and maintain relationships and establish sort of a position of trust and sort of two-way, both with their sales reps, but with the external customers as well. And I feel that this kind of slightly extroverted, or gosh, I'm losing all my words, a person that can display a high level of empathetic or emotional intelligence, that I can perceive that they will be able to establish relationships professionally. I often find like a sense of fun and a sense of humor is quite important there, but it's not like critical. And I also don't think that a pure extrovert is critical either. It's just this ability to communicate and establish a relationship with the person that you're interacting with. What else? I actually think, I mean, this is a result of the industry in which I work in, which has valued the consultative behavior, or needs the consultative behavior more than the technical ability. So when I'm hiring, I'm not actually looking for that level of engineering or technical expertise, because I haven't needed that yet. So that might be a difference for me personally in the world in which I work. I'm looking for more of the consultative expertise and the ability to be curious and committed to continuous learning. And yeah, the like a sales mentality These people have got, they're not responsible for a quota, but they've got to be able to sell. They've got to be able to pitch and sell, and ideally that needs to be based on what they've heard, so that they are really positioning it as a value-based sale, rather than just, completely externally based. Anything else? Yeah.
Also.
What's that? Yeah, good listeners. Yes.
To the pain
yes.
point of the customer. It's so insightful. So they also need to have that critical thinking. Nice.
Yes. Yeah. I think that, you're right. The sense of curiosity is pointless if it's just asking questions and not like then building from there. You're right. They have to have the skills to kind of analyze and then create a strategy or a consultative response from what they're hearing. And then they tie that up with the sales-centric behavior. It's a lot of skills and competencies that we're looking for. It's actually very challenging role. But yeah, the successful ones tend to display that behavior.
Amazing. So we've got sales acumen, business acumen, being consultative, high emotional intelligence, curiosity. I totally agree on everything there. And I think that if you're curious as well, you're going to be curious with the customer.
Yes.
And the customer can really feel that if you're genuinely curious, combined with that EQ, and then that builds trust. And you're away to the races. So fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So, and again, this doesn't have to be in your current role. It can be in the past as well. If you look at the different components of a pre-sales cycle, so you've got all the different aspects. So working with sales execs, discovery, building, solutioning, demos, RFPs. Are there any that are particularly important for you? So where are the critical incidents during that cycle that you're looking for people that can really excel there?
Yeah, that is interesting. Now, I'd really say for me, it's the solution alignment, I guess you would call it, that phase where you are hopefully in an ideal world taking a qualified opportunity that has already had good discovery and working to build a solution that fits what you have understood about the customer and iterating as you learn and understand more. Now, like obviously that's ideal state, but I think the discovery skill is important throughout. Even if you're lucky, if you're lucky enough to work with reps who are really good at discovery and qualification, then you're still not excluded from doing discovery and qualification because that's part of your role. You should never leave a customer conversation without having found out something more or, revalidated and understanding an objective and so on. So that kind of skill of questioning, critical thinking, analysis, all wrapped into discovery is important throughout. Although if we're thinking about it from the sales cycle, the solution alignment is the area that's really critical from my point of view.
So going back a little to what you said, that some positions require more hard skills, some others not so many hard skills. If you could think about the roles that you've hired for, could you imagine a pie chart? Like what is the percentage of hard skills, the percentage of soft skills, the cultural fit? What is the most important for you?
Soft skills is the most of the pie chart. If I could put a number on it, I'd say 70% soft skills. Maybe. Let me think about that. So would that make sense? 70% soft, 20%, or no, 15% cultural fit, 10% technical mastery, and 5% like magic dust.
Good. Perfect.
When you say magic dusts, what is that? That's really interesting.
Is that the type of intuition that you have?
I think it might be intuition, yes, which is difficult because I've got to be very aware of conscious and unconscious bias in this sort of intuition bucket. And I do try to create the framework to kind of make sure that I'm myself aware of any preconceived or like unconscious things that are going on under the surface. But I think I guess it's I mean, maybe it is soft skills. It's just that you have to have, you can't just focus on one of those buckets alone. The extra 5% is just tying it all together and being able to display a healthy balance of commercial acumen, soft skills, technical expertise, and relationship building with me as the hirer, I guess.
Something we've learned from these conversations and just in general as well is that as a hiring manager, you're not starting from this kind of pool of 15 amazing candidates, and you can really say, well, this is what's important. It's got to be quite fluid in terms of what's important for this specific role, and also looking at the individual characteristics of the candidates that you're on your shortlist and working out what's best in this moment in time. So you need to have flexibility around all of those different components.
Yes, yeah.
But it seems like the soft skills, which I think follow on to cultural fit as well.
Yes.
Soft skills fit is the must-have.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, that's right. And one more comment as well, actually, that pie chart, you're absolutely right. It might vary. I also will, going forward, this was maybe less of an issue in my previous roles because I had a smaller team. Now I have a bigger team. I've got really quite interesting diversity across the team in terms of their professional background and their what I'd call their special skills. And I'm conscious I've got a gap with like true solutions engineering type skills, like the technical skills on my team. There's a gap there, and that's okay for the moment. But I've got really good coverage in terms of the industry and the advisory services that we're working with. And, I've got the range of kind of recruitment, talent, global mobility, legal and compliance, legacy, competitor. I've got really good breadth there. And going forward, it will, as our organization changes and develops and matures, the product is going to mature. Our integration capability will also mature, and I will probably find myself looking for a higher percentage of technical expertise in the future. So yeah, it's not a hard and fast rule, but broadly speaking, from my experience, there's a lot the kind of what I would term technical mastery, so mastery of the product and mastery of the product. It can be learned if you've got the right balance of soft skills.
Yeah. Okay, so if you could go back and talk to yourself and give yourself advice when you first started interviewing candidates, when you first started hiring, what advice would you give yourself?
Don't rush is probably the number one thing I would learn. So I have been in the position where desperate, a gap in the team, desperate for it to be filled, because the impact on me and my colleagues was so significant, and I rushed the hiring as a result. And actually the hire I made in that wasn't successful for a variety of reasons. So yeah, with a really challenging recruitment pipeline, it can be tempting to rush and just pick the best of the bunch that you have in front of you. And I think I ignored my gut and rushed into it.
Yeah, I think they say, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no, and you've got to really follow your instinct. And if there's something wrong, it needs to be looked into.
Yeah.
But it's difficult as well because you've got business needs to cover and so on and so forth. So, so yeah, fantastic. Thanks for that.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for all the insights that you shared with us, and for your commitment and taking the time to discuss with us. I'm not sure if you have any questions for us, or you'd like to know anything about the report.
Yeah, no, it would be lovely to know what's next. Yeah, so I know you sort of told me at the beginning, but yeah, what's going to happen next? How many of these are you doing, and what's the timing on kind of the report that you're putting out?
So, John, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, happy to. So we're in the process. We want to have enough survey responses for it to be a robust report, and so it takes time to garner all of those responses. So once we've got the number that we're looking for, we want to build up the report, and we're hoping that report will both be a snapshot of how hiring is now across the industry. And it's really interesting because there are lots of similarities, but there are differences as well in terms of how people approach and also the different contexts that people are in. And then in parallel, we want to be able to provide a point of view around, what are the different assessment tools and methodologies and techniques that are available, so that as a hiring manager, you have a bit more of a menu to choose from, a bit more kind of structure. And then in terms of these conversations, so we're starting with a round of 10, and then we're going to see how the responses from that, if there's for us, the conversation today with you has been absolutely fantastic, and thank you so much. You bring so much energy and thought. It's been great.
You're welcome.
So if it's of value, we'll continue, and if not, we won't. And I think we're kind of playing it by ear in that respect.
Okay, great, thank you. That's really helpful.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to your insights. The materials you've already shared is fantastic. The competency model, really, really helpful, actually. So thank you.
How did it map again? Because I heard that you mentioned that you have.
Yeah.
How did it map?
It mapped pretty well. I called it slightly different things.
Yeah.
Let me see. What have you got? You got the 4 buckets. I had 4 buckets too. But in although they're called different things, I'm pretty. Yeah, it's almost maps really, really very well. Actually, I liked. I maybe missed a couple hard conversations. I missed as a specific one, but yeah. Oh, and the other thing that hard conversations wasn't explicit on my competency one. And the thing I wrote in my competencies that even though I've just said technical expertise is a lower thing, I wrote it as a kind of bucket of a competency, because I expect maybe it's less hiring, it's more like on the job. I expect them to accumulate that technical mastery of the product when they're onboarded. So I had that in my competencies, although you don't have it here, I don't think.
Yeah, so the report, so the model that we have was developed with Sova. So they design bespoke assessments for like Deloitte and those kind of companies. And so they had a lot of kind of subjective conversations with top performers from different customers. Ours, Don Carmichael, who I think he was
yes.
Well, yeah, exactly. So he kind of did a big brain dump in terms of what's important.
Yeah.
So they've actually built so it's a personality assessment based upon that competency model. So their own personality assessment is then kind of mapped back to that model, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
And then the next stage is, so that's based on kind of subjective validation. And then the next stage is we want to run the assessment by 100 pre-sales professionals, and then map that against line manager ratings of performance.
Okay.
All super potential. You mesh it all together, and you should have some really interesting insight. Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing.
Thank you.
It really has been good.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I hope it's helpful. Thank you. It makes me think too.
Good.
Good for me.
Amazing.